Thank you, Aubrey. This was a mesmerizing morning with Vadim, Steve, and Matt. Such incredible science, and it made me realize how far we have come, but how much farther we have to go to solve aging. And so what we have here is the amazing investors who run the top funds for our industry. And of course, they provide the fuel to take all the science to market and to all of us. And so without further ado, we're going to get into some questions. You've already seen most of them present, and we're going to try to ask some questions to basically get a summary from all of you of what maybe you've already talked about. We're going to start with a question to all of you. So please tell us about your interests, your personal interests, and what piece of the aging puzzle are you focusing on? Jyothi, would you like to start?
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. So I'm Jyothi Devakumar, and I have worked in all subsectors of longevity and regenerative medicine. I started as a scientist, moved on to become an entrepreneur, and then recently, in the last 4 years, I've been a venture investor. So because this is a finance or fund, venture capital-based panel, I would like to focus on the last 4 years. The aspects that I enjoyed the most as an investor or a venture investor is A, portfolio management, B, building companies, because we had a venture builder affiliated to the fund, as most of these people do here. So that is what I would like to focus on. I'm creating a new venture builder initiative. It has differentiators from what you've heard over the last 15, 20 minutes, or maybe even a couple of hours now. And it does have unique features as well. So we will get more of those details as we go along with the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take too much time now. My personal motivation is that my parents are 74 and 73. You see age coming to them, and I already can say with the interventions I could propose to them based on what my team was finding and the products we have, you can see a certain rejuvenation happening. Give you an example, my father plays 2 hours tennis again, and before he was only able to play 1 hour. So.
Okay, the personal aspect, I was, I guess, pretty precautious. Already as an adolescent, I thought it's strange that people accept that they fall apart, basically, at the end of their life. And that's also why I then studied molecular biology. I studied actually twice. I also studied economics and tried to combine these two. And in the end, it brought me to venture capital. And 5 years ago, I could switch my job for a conventional fund that did normal drug development in a way to an institution that focuses solely on longevity.
So my personal motivation is being able to use different types of funding mechanisms and different ways of operationally doing the scientific research, doing the company building in a more internet native and decentralized, globally distributed way, and basically leveraging the wisdom of the crowds in order to generate breakthrough biotech cures, therapeutics. So.
My motivation is doing creative things with creative people. So I really deeply enjoy, and it's super gratifying to be able to reach out to folks like you, but also other scientists working in the field, and really conceptualizing, how you can translate that into a drug that then would give, benefit to a patient, but at the same time, you have the commercial framework in the back of your head. So I think this is super exciting. It never stops. It's always new. There's always new ideas coming in. So that's deeply gratifying to me, and this is what really keeps me going.
Thank you. So the next question I'm going to address to Patrick and Jyothi.
Before you go on to the next question, why don't you give us your personal motivation? We don't want to miss out on that.
Well, just like all of you, I don't want to age. I want to be rejuvenated. I need my energy back. And I need to get rid of the gray hair. You keep promising you're going to make something for me.
Yes, that'll happen. For sure.
All right, so the next question I'd like to address to Patrick and Jyothi. And any of you who would like to jump in and contribute, please do. So what do you see as the most promising treatments for aging that may be available in the next few years? So the low-hanging fruit. Patrick, you want to start? Or Jyothi, whoever.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, I have looked at a lot of companies in this space. And to me, based on the scientific diligence, about 40% of the companies are positioning themselves as longevity companies in a hurry. So we heard Matt speak about what the hype and the over magnification of, or rather blurring of reality and hype that happens in this field, and I've seen a lot of it. So what could represent a very interesting approach? I would bet on microbiome, because it's one aspect that touches all the different functional systems in the body, the entire physiology, if I may say so. So I think some of the companies that I've seen and the company that I'm building, again, I'm being biased, in the microbiome space, I think could make the difference.
Short and midterm, I cannot ask for anything more than our portfolio companies succeeding. I mean, reversing calcification or making cancer pretty much thing of the past would be brilliant. But if I may even dream a little bit further on, if you look at how mankind has treated diseases, it started with small molecules. We found them by chance, etc. After that, by trial and error. Then came the antibodies, 80s, 90s. About 10, 15 years ago, we started with cellular therapies, being very effective. And if you look at that trend, it gets bigger all the time. And I would really love to see tissue engineering having breakthroughs, because this would also obviate the need for this lengthy academic process where one researcher makes his or her name in a special field and then publishes the next 30 years on this topic. There, you are less driven by causality. You just take something out and put engineered tissue in that is genetically identical, hopefully. That would be a long-term dream.
Okay, very interesting. When do you see tissue engineering becoming real?
It is already real, especially in tissues that are not vascularized or not much vascularized. We have bone cement, we have a cartilage. We all remember the ear on the back of a mouse on the publications. But then it gets pretty quickly much, much harder. Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine is probably the leading institute in the world here. And they're working on the kidney for 10 years, and predictions are it takes at least another decade.
Could I add in a couple of my thoughts here? So for me, tissue engineering has been around for a long time, a few decades to be precise. But then I think vasculature that Patrick talked about has been the stumbling block. And to have a functional tissue built outside the body, I think is much more difficult than having regenerative strategies integrated in situ, or rather in vivo. I think my vote would be to look at technologies that induce rejuvenation or build tissues within the body.
Within the body, so like stem cells and such. Right?
Yeah, couple of strategies there, not just stem cells alone, because if you put stem cells alone into the body, because of the hostile environment that exists, especially in a disease condition, most of these cells die. Very few of them survive, let alone integrate. So my strategy would be, or the dream company for me in that space would be something that brings together a lot of different fields and builds in vasculature and attempts to build tissue in vivo than ex vivo.
Okay, sounds very interesting. So the next question will be for Tobias, Patrick, and Jan. Where are the enablers and deterrents of the progress in health span extension? You want to start, Jan?
Oh, that's a tricky one, huh? I agree to that one, yeah, okay. So the way we look at that really is from multi, there are multi-layers that play into that. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to get a project up and running in the sense of it has to be viable. It's the science, first of all, but it's also, and I heard this in one of the talks, is the talent. You know, like the R&D plan and the milestones we want to drive these companies towards. Yeah. I had that on one of my slides at the second half of the talk. I think it's across the whole value chain, not repeating what was on that slide basically, but it's also the pull from the market, looking how we can bring this into a regulated environment, talking to the authorities there, but also talking to people that are dictating the reimbursement at the end of the day, and most of all, if you're looking at therapeutics, I mean, this is what we do at Apollo. It's also getting pharma in the boat. That's essentially it. So, across those stakeholder groups, I would say this is going to be decisive over the next 5 years or so, with some templates, obviously, case studies and templates that show meaningful clinical data with some aging biology. That hopefully catalyzes that discussion going forward.
But Patrick?
I don't have much to add to that. I guess we need to follow the traditional routes first and foremost. And first human POC will be definitely a turning point for these treatments. But otherwise, I think we cannot introduce any new enablers or new sources of,
Well, I don't know if this is related, but I liked your idea of when you exit, you spin out to large pharma a specific disease which they're good at picking up and running with and keeping the core technology, if you will, the longevity, close at hand, and spinning off more and more diseases. That's a brilliant thought.
It's sometimes possible if the consortium of investors agrees, and also if you do have a pipeline, sometimes you're a single asset company to be lean and easily financeable.
Okay, Tobias?
Yeah, I see a lot of enablers right now, and they come with AI. AI allows us to speed up research processes, to deal with data, then computation power. I mean, when we look at the genetical sequencing 20 years ago and what is possible today, I mean, Biolytica, for example, now is coming up working with the full genome and not only some percentage of it, because we can. And it's not costing us $1 million, it costs us, $1,000-$2,000 to do a full sequence. So I think there is a lot of those enablers. When it comes to distribution today, it's absolutely possible to do products without having production facilities. Easy for everybody. ChatGPT helps you building a company. I think we have a democratization now for entrepreneurs. Everybody can do it.
Yeah. Could I just add one more?
Yes.
So even the FDA is bringing in enablers. For example, the Modernization 2.0 Act that came in 2022. So that's another one. And so I think the whole ecosystem is gearing up to provide more and more enablers. And we have so many angel investors flocking into longevity is another enabler.
I agree. Tobias, just to follow up on your AI suggestion, so AI machine learning will require a lot of information, knowledge bases. Do you think we have enough there? And how long do you think it'll take for that to become real and trustable? And another thing AI requires is some biofeedback. We talked about biomarker consortium. We need these biomarkers. We need to have them with appropriate resolution and in time, because they have, as we have seen from Vadim, they fluctuate all over the place. And it's very hard for humans to make sense out of this amount of information. So can you offer us your thoughts on that?
Well, on the one hand, I can say, today AI helps us. It's not in the future, it's now. And it will get better the more data we have. So today you could compare AI versus a human doctor. In certain things, AI is much faster, and then you need to have a double check by a human. Why? Because there is a lack of data and so on, and it needs to get better. But it's not that we say, oh, in 10 years AI will help us. No, today we can use it. I mean, one of our company, Biolytica, is using it. Not maybe someone in the future. So I think what we do not understand here is how big the impact of AI will be on pretty much all the companies we plan to build in the future. Because, you know, this is not a linear growth. This is very much exponential. So I would say maybe a little answer I could give to your question is, I think in the next 5 years, we will see huge changes in all of the sectors. You know, longevity has to work with data because of AI.
Do you think in 10 years, a computer could be my doctor and a bunch of sensors in my home could feed it information?
I would say yes. And for many people, it will be a better doctor than the access they have to health care today.
Awesome. All right. The next question is for Jan. How could we get to trial designs that allow for health span testing?
I only give you part of the answer. The other one, I keep for myself. So it obviously that's another crucial question that people dance around, and there is no real good answer at this point in time. I mean, there are some surrogates that we are seeing in the market. Our bet at Apollo, and I'd also personally agree to that, is that it's probably going to be playing out in the neuro-D space, where if you add up the numbers, it's just going to be staring some point down the road. So people have to find an alternative there to really symptomatic treatment to getting to a more pre-symptomatic early intervention here. Yeah? One of the examples that recently approved and could be a case in point, and more to come on that, is the approval of Qaldosi, the mRNA therapeutic for ALS, where there was a serum biomarker that people used in some kind of combinatory endpoint, and the FDA approved that conditionally based on that data. So there is some movement, and there will be more to come. It has to come, we think, and we are betting that this is going to be neuro-D. So we're watching that space closely. There is also lobbying going on. I've talked to a couple of groups that have, one-on-ones with different stakeholders in Washington, somewhere else. It's a lot of education that is still necessary in that space, but it has to happen. I think there's just no alternative to that.
All right, folks, I got a signal that we have less than 2 minutes, probably one now. So Eleanor, can you talk a little bit about VitaDAO versus traditional funds and venture building models? Should we all be coming to your meetings? Because it sounds like you folks get these companies when they're still very small and nascent, and it sounds like we all should be there participating and watching what's coming, right?
Yeah, so I mean, exactly that. So I mean, I also want to make the point that it's not a competitor to, the venture capital model by any means. In fact, it's a facilitator. And sure, you should be joining these meetings to see what kind of new, interesting projects are coming to the stage. If any researchers that you're familiar with who are entrepreneurial, who are frustrated with the system, want to try a different model, by all means, we are very open to, looking into the project, into funding the project. I mean, we also have a in-house builder squad, it's called, so company builders that basically are specialized in bringing projects from the stage of translational R&D into spinning up a company. And we also have the crypto side, and many of whom are actually biotechs as well, so crypto-agnostic biotechs who understand the technology and the applicability and how this translates into building companies further down the line, and just to basically de-risk the project before bringing in more institutional funding.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Did you want to add something quick?
Yeah. She's being 100% honest, because I'm a part of them in a way. And I'm soon going to be part of their Brain DAO. That's a new initiative. And I've always been a part of VitaDAO. It's enjoyable.
That's awesome. Do we have time for a question from the audience? Any questions to any of us? Over there.
Hello, thank you. Great panel. I have a question. If you look at the crypto space, and how you are going about organizing communities, how will you learn from the first wave of crypto, where we unfortunately at some point saw a big bozo explosion in initiatives? And that the lesson learned from that is the intelligence of the crowd is not always intelligent if you enter into a lot of pump and dump tactics. Please reflect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a really important point to make as well. So as we did see in the beginning of the crypto summer, the bull market, there was a lot of pump and dump activity. And the thing that's different with decentralized science is that we're a lot more biotech, scientific research agnostic. And actually, if you were to buy a token on an exchange, there's only a limited amount that can be purchased to basically kind of avoid this sort of, this sort of activity. And another thing that's important to note is that the decentralized science organizations that I spoke about earlier, that actually popped up during the crypto winter. So the bear market last year, and is still ongoing. So now we're really seeing the end part of the Gartner hype cycle, where projects that are demonstrating real world utility and are able to also raise institutional capital as well as crypto are kind of coming to the fore, demonstrating value and real world applicability, and not just sort of in a crypto island of like pump dump Ponzi sort of things. So just want to bring that point home.
All right, well, thank you. I thank you especially to the speakers for being so timely and getting us more or less back on schedule. Round of applause for them, please.